Do you know when he and his father left Idaho or Washington and drove to Pennsylvania, what that date was?
No, I don't know the exact date, ma'am.
Approximately, we understand the middle of December. Is that correct?
I think that's approximate.
And what about, we had heard reports that they were stopped not once but twice on the highway. Can you elaborate?
I'll defer to his Pennsylvania public defender on that.
All right, so on the drive back from Washington State to Pennsylvania, apparently the defendant, the accused Idaho killer, is in the car with his father, and they get pulled over in Indiana. We've got the body cam footage. Let's take a look at it. There he is, driving the car, part of his 2,500-mile road trip back to his home state of Pennsylvania, where just about 2 weeks later, he was arrested for the murders of Ethan, Xana, Maddie, and Kaylee. Unbelievable. Got stopped twice by police in Indiana. All right, I want to bring in Court TV legal correspondent Chanley Painter, joining us live tonight outside the courthouse in Moscow, Idaho. Chanley, I understand you've got some breaking news for us tonight. What can you tell us?
Yeah, Vinny, just now the Moscow Police Department issuing a press release and attaching a judge's order issuing a gag order over this entire case, the investigation. In this gag order, the Latah County Magistrate Judge Megan Marshall issued a non-dissemination order regarding the murder case against Bryan Kohberger. This order prohibits any communications by investigators, law enforcement officials, personnel, attorneys, agents of the prosecuting attorney, or defense attorney concerning this case. And they, of course, have a copy of that order that was just filed this evening here in Latah County at the courthouse behind me. So that is big news now. The officials that we've been hearing from, we've been talking to here on Court TV, as well as the Moscow Police Department, who've been so vocal with press releases and press conferences, now will not be communicating about this case, Vinny.
And this is fascinating because on the one hand, we've heard a lot from investigators, what they could tell us during the course of trying to capture a killer. But we're going to have that probable cause affidavit. And I wonder if this will delay the unsealing
Hopefully
of
the
that.
judge still unseals it, Benny. The judge could decide to keep it under seal. That's always a possibility, and we've seen that previously, but hopefully they do follow through and unseal the affidavit, arrest affidavit, and reveal more details. At least we get some information by way of that.
You think about it, if it does get unsealed and there's a gag order in place where there'll be no, I don't know if the judge will allow a response to it by the defense. Otherwise, the defense is not getting anything in front of the public, what their side of the story is, other than pleading not guilty. Interesting development tonight. Chanley, thanks so much for that. What do we know about his connection to Washington State, what he was doing there, what people were saying about him, what he was like as I guess he was a teaching assistant?
Sure, yeah. So about 20 minutes from where I am right now in Moscow, Idaho, across the border into Washington State, we have Washington State University, Vinny, where Kohberger was a graduate student, his first semester as a PhD student in criminology and criminal justice. That is, again, about 9.3 miles from Moscow, Idaho. So just over the border, 20-minute drive to Pullman, Washington, where he resided there. And of course, we know he was picked up in Pennsylvania, which was over 2,500 miles away on the other side of the U.S., where he's going to be extradited, transported back here to this side of the country at some unknown time. So his connection there as a student, he'd only lived there, a few months, but like you mentioned, he was a teaching assistant. He had students that he taught as part of his graduate school program. I believe we do have sound from a student who spoke out about the demeanor of his teacher before and after the murders. Let's watch.
He was pretty strict as far as grading goes. When he came into class, he was very, not super mentally present. He would stand up at the front, look at the ground. He had a lot of like boilerplate responses he would give people rather than, maybe something he had thought up on the spot. It seemed like he would be, he'd come in knowing what he was going to say to like most interactions. And then when he would grade your papers, he would be grading you on what he ended up calling like a higher standard. But what it really felt like to us was he was grading us like he would have graded himself as a PhD student. And so that was just kind of like, we were all annoyed by him. And so I knew his name, I knew like, oh, T.A. Bryan, like he sucks at this. Like he's grading us too harshly. And that was like an annoyance. But obviously beyond that, we just thought he was a little weird and kind of, a bad grader. It would have been about a month before winter break when like the murders happened. And we didn't obviously build our framework for this around that because we had no reason to connect him to that, at the time. But definitely around then, he started grading everybody just 100s, not like you pretty much, if you turned something in, you were getting high marks, and he stopped leaving notes. It was just, he seemed preoccupied is what I would have said at the time. And now obviously he seems like he was probably pretty preoccupied.
Of course, his former students aren't the only ones putting some pieces of the puzzle back together, recalling the last several weeks and what they witnessed of Bryan Kohberger, his neighbors there at the apartment, on-campus apartment at WSU. I spoke to several off-camera, on-camera, who say that while they were relieved to hear that finally there was an arrest in this case, they're shocked, terrified, flabbergasted was another word that we kept hearing, that it was someone so close. The alleged killer literally steps away, or the neighbor away. I spoke to the man who lives above Kohberger on the 3rd floor. There's Kohberger's unit 201 in the video. The man above said that he is just, he used the word terrified, Vinny, thinking that an alleged mass murderer lived so close.
And you're at the jail tonight. Do we know, or will we know, when he's going to be brought in? When he's going to arrive and when he'll be appearing in an Idaho courtroom?
I exclusively spoke to the sheriff, Lake County Sheriff, on camera earlier, and he did not know. He expected it to be within a day or two, but he had no communications of that. Of course, that's what he was telling me. But they're preparing now for that process to unfold and how Kohberger will be transported here. There's several airports close by, the closest one in Pullman, Washington, where WSU is, but there's also Lewiston, Spokane, an hour or two away, that depending on the airplane, would be flown here, Benny, and then the sheriff was waiting to hear if his personnel needed to be the one to pick up Kohberger at the airport, or if the team bringing him over would bring him fully to this jail behind me. And at that point, he would be in his own secluded, regular cell, but secluded from general pop, but have all the same privileges as an inmate here at the county jail. But we are on standby, media from all over the nation on standby, because we don't know exactly when that will be. And now with this gag order, it's anyone's guess.
And how about the families? How are they doing? I know the Goncalves family has been the most outspoken, the most public of the 4 families. How are they doing?
Yeah, Vinny, this is a process. I did speak with the attorney representing the Goncalves family because, like you said, they've been so vocal, Kaylee Goncalves' parents, and he presented it to me as though the first chapter has ended, the search for the person responsible, and it's like a new chapter has begun, because they call it really the beginning almost, because they're still investigating this, learning what they can. And he, of course, looking back, felt that the credit to what broke the case open may have been with more of the community than the investigation. Let's watch.
We've originally said from the get-go, the community will solve this case, right? And I think the community did help solve this case. They reached out. The police finally gave information for the community to actually go on, and they were able to, figure things out. It's one of those things. I think the most important thing they could have done was share information with the community, and ask them for help, which they finally started to do. And I think that's probably what broke the case, is that, because friends of friends of friends of friends, who knows, right? started figuring things out, started looking for the white Hyundai Elantra, started suspecting different people about different things, figuring out timeframes, contacts, things like that. So, and I'm sure they've got some with the lab, got some more harder evidence, DNA evidence and things along those lines. I'm sure they have that information as well.
The Gonsalves family in Coeur d'Alene, about 2 hours from here, but the attorney, Shannon Gray, telling me that a representative from the Gonsalves family will be at every Idaho court appearance where Bryan Kohberger is. They're determined to see this through and follow through. And at the same time, while they're invested, they're relieved at this arrest, they still have some empathy and sympathy for Kohberger's family they're expressing as well, Vinny.
Chanley Painter live in Moscow tonight. We'll be following up with you all week long. Thank you so much, Chanley. Appreciate it. Let's bring back in our think tank Renee Hill, Brian Weiss, Rick King with us. Rick, what's the impact of this gag order that Chanley just told us about, the breaking news tonight? A gag order issued, meaning, no one's going to be allowed to talk about this anymore. Advantage anyone?
Advantage prosecution always. And here's the other thing. The openness of the law enforcement during the course of this in the beginning put a lot of information out into the public. And now with the gag order, especially if they don't allow the unsealing of the probable cause affidavit, you're going to have the story that's been put out by law enforcement prior to the arrest, and then that's all you have. So the advantage in this case, definitely, if with this gag order, has to lie in the place of law enforcement.
Well, let me tell you this morning on NBC's Today Show, Jason Labar, the public defender representing the accused killer, explained how his client has reacted to being accused of the quadruple murder. Take a listen.
It is a little out of character. He said, this is not him. He believes he's going to be exonerated. That's what he believes. Those were his words. So he's really been very easy to talk to, actually. And he's in a calm demeanor, like I stated.
All right, Brian, is that enough to even the playing field there?
Vin, I am not a big fan of gag orders. I've had the privilege of arguing and winning the gag order template in criminal cases here in Texas, in Ray Ashley Page Benton. And what strikes me is that while this order was issued with all due respect to the magistrate judge, my understanding is that there are First Amendment issues, number one, and due process considerations. Before a court can go to DEFCON 1 by issuing a gag order, at least in Texas, you've got to have notice and a hearing and less drastic alternatives to shutting everybody down. And I've never seen any lawyer in my lifetime ever be punished for contempt for violating a gag order, because your typical gag order has more holes than the Iraqi Navy. And I'm telling you, whether it's challenged by the defense or the prosecution or by news agencies, we haven't seen the last of whether or not this gag order can stand on its own 2 feet.
Yeah, Renee Hill, I've been trying to gag Brian Weiss for 20 years now. No success, so I understand that. Renee, what do you think the defense needs to get something out there in public? Because all the talk has been about him. There's been some talk about DNA matches. There's been talk about white Elantras. We got the body cam footage. Guess what he's driving? A white Elantra. Everything is pointing to him right now. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm sure they would like to get something out there in the press, if for nothing else, to have something in the minds of the potential jury pool coming up. But ultimately, the defense is not going to want to try this case in the media. They're going to want to get into the affidavit, see exactly what's there, prepare their defense, and get it ready for the courtroom. But I'm sure that they would like to have something else out there other than what's there right now.
Anyone surprised of the circumstances surrounding how this case is going right now, Rick? The fact that it's not someone necessarily who was inside the circle, and does that provide an opening for the defense that maybe when they get to trial, because I know what defense attorneys like to do, they like to point at this one and that one, and maybe it was this guy, could have been him, maybe that one,
I think at this point, and to steal your phrase, right now he's wrapped in the cloak of that presumption of innocence, and I think that ultimately, there's going to be. I wonder right now, his DNA's in the house. who else's DNA is in the house? How many other sets of people that were in that house have they collected DNA from, and why? Because it's his. Was there a party there? Has he been there? There's gonna be more information that needs to come out. There has to be something other than that DNA and the fact that he drives an Elantra. So there's got to be more, and it's going to be in that probable cause affidavit. So right now,
I bet it's going to be his phone. I bet his phone was everywhere it shouldn't have been. But we shall see. We shall see. All right.